Greetings, I am Pearl John from Logos Management, and let me extend a warm welcome to the other 167. I'm delighted that you could join me today as we continue the series Dare to be a Daniel in the Corporate Den. Last week we spoke of the theme competencies that count, and we said 1. Appearance and aptitude, 2. Mental makeup, and 3. Spiritual strengths that Daniel and his friends demonstrated. This week we move on to the third part of the series, and we will focus on the theme Daniel, the ordinary lad who became an extraordinary leader. Daniel, the ordinary lad who became an extraordinary leader. What made Daniel, the ordinary young lad, into that extraordinary leader that he became? I'd like us to consider 3 key lessons, in my view, that contributed to this transition. 1. He desisted defilement. We find that in verse 8. In a generation where the lines between the right and wrong has blurred, where the appetite for evil has grown leaps and bounds, where the bad is glorified and good subdued, Daniel and his friends desisted defilement. There is an open invitation out there to give vent to your dark side. There are opportunities that knock every hour or more to let go of your moral high ground. There are possibilities that open up to you on an ongoing basis every moment to compromise your standards. The availability of opportunities does not mean you have the permission to give in. The presence of temptations do not warrant your yielding to it. Much against the world would have you believe that giving in to your temptations is the way to go forward. The way of the word is to desist the temptation. The pulls of the universe, the attractions of the cosmos, the temptations of the world are patent realities. Often they invade you in the most subtlest of forms and creeps into your ecosystem in the most indistinct format. Stay alert, be vigilant, get sharp-eyed, lest you are taken unawares and the snares find their foothold into your thoughts, words, and actions. Remember Ephesians 4:27, which admonishes us to not give place to the devil? And Matthew 26:41, which says, watch and pray lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Temptations come in various hues and forms. Some are straightforward, easy to tackle, while others are rather subtle and challenging to get your fingers around. When you determine in your heart that you will not compromise your principles, no matter how alluring the proposition is, and when you have decided in your mind that you will not give in to the pulls and pushes of tempting options, and when you have yielded your spirit unto his spirit to lead, guide, and secure you, you are likely to stick to the moral high ground regardless of the propositions, irrespective of the possibilities, and notwithstanding the temptations. Often the possibility that you may not be found out or that you may get away with your action could be powerful motivation to flirt with the option of giving in to temptation. However, desisting that pull definitely calls for a subscription to a higher code that is not defined by the external circumstances but dictated by the inner conscience that is ignited by the higher spirit, informed by the holy writ, and inspired by the higher power. To live with the tug of the conscience is much harder than to live without the advantage that the temptation brings. Remember 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape, that you may be able to bear it. That is the assurance that you and I have. A way out, organized by God to overcome the temptation that comes your way. Secondly, he was devoted to prayer. Devoted to prayer. Favor of men comes from God intervening. We find that in verse 9. Now God had brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of eunuchs. Why did God bring Daniel into the favor of others? You know what the secret is? You find the secret in the 2nd chapter, verses 17 and 18. Daniel went to the house, made a decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his friends, and he asked them and implored them that they may seek the mercies of the God of heaven concerning the secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men. So that basically tells you that Daniel was given to prayer, and we find numerous instances in the Bible where we hear of Daniel praying consistently. He was devoted to prayer. We read that Daniel continued to pray even against the orders of the king. The prayers of a lowly saint from the extreme corner of the world has the potential to change his sphere and beyond. For the feeble cries of a saint is heard by the Almighty, who is no respecter of people, but is eager to answer the pleas of an earnest heart. And he stops the virulent COVID in its path, the ensuing cough and cold in its course, and the corrosive cancer in its cells, and refreshes you with his amazing grace, renews your strength as that of an eagle, and rewards you with his mighty presence. Remember Jeremiah 33:3, call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. And Isaiah 40:31, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. How is your prayer life? Have you allowed your busy schedules to steal away the solitary time spent with God in prayer? If it is, make a decision today to get your prayer life recalibrated. Thirdly, he had a disposition to take risks. In chapter 2, verse 14 and 16, we read this. And with the counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard. You know, that he had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel found an opportune time, went into the king and asked for time that he might tell the king the interpretation. The order to execute the wise men of the land was passed. The king's guard was about their job. But here was Daniel risking his life and putting forth a counter proposition that paved the way for him to be catapulted into the Hall of Fame. He had his head on the chopping block, but that willingness to take risks was a precursor to winning accolades. Are you willing to come out of the cocoons and take those risks for God? If you risk with God, you reign with Him too. I repeat, if you risk with God, you reign with Him too. This is Pearl John signing off, The Other 167. Thank you for watching The Other 167 and look forward to seeing you the next week in continuation of this series. Have a great weekend and a greater week ahead. God bless you.